Hi kids, this is Mrs. Gouloff. Today I would like to read a book to you that I have read to probably the last 2 or 3 classes that I've had. And it's called Because of Winn-Dixie. It is by my favorite author. Her name is Kate DiCamillo. She wrote this book. She wrote The Tale of Despero. You may have seen the movie or read the book. Let's see, what else did she write? A lot of good books. She does the Mercy Watson series. I think there's one called Tiger Rising that I've never read. Anyway, I'm going to read you one chapter. But throughout the time that I'm reading this book to you, you are going to be predicting. You are going to question, clarify, and summarize. So after each chapter, you'll be responsible for answering a few questions about that chapter. The good part is you get to listen to the book or listen to the chapter over again if you want to. All you have to do is play this video back again. So the book, as I said, is by Kate DiCamillo. It is Because of Winn-Dixie. I do not have pictures, so you're going to have to draw a picture in your mind. As far as the questioning, I want you to think about why certain things happen in this book as I read along, and try to remember those questions so that maybe you can get clarification later. And if the author doesn't give you clarification on it, they don't outright answer your questions, then you can decide for yourself. You can infer it from what clues that you have heard in the book and what kind of person you think that the main character is, or the supporting characters. So let's just get to the book now. Okay, Because of Winn-Dixie, Chapter 1. My name is India Opal Baloney. Last summer, my daddy, the preacher, sent me to the store for a box of macaroni and cheese, some white rice, and 2 tomatoes, and I came back with a dog. This is what happened. I walked into the produce section of the Winn-Dixie grocery store to pick out my 2 tomatoes, and I almost bumped right into the store manager. He was standing there all red-faced, screaming and waving his arms around. "Who let a dog in here?" he kept on shouting. "Who let a dirty dog in here?" At first, I didn't see a dog. There were just a lot of vegetables rolling around on the floor, tomatoes and onions and green peppers. And there was what seemed like a whole army of Winn-Dixie employees running around, waving their arms just the same way the store manager was waving his. And then the dog came running around the corner. He was a big dog and ugly, and he looked like he was having a real good time. His tongue was hanging out, and he was wagging his tail. He skidded to a stop and smiled right at me. I'd never before in my life seen a dog smile, but that is what he did. He pulled back his lips and he showed me all his teeth. Then he wagged his tail so hard that he knocked some oranges off a display, and they went rolling everywhere, mixing in with the tomatoes and onions and green peppers. The manager screamed, "Somebody grab that dog!" The dog went running over to the manager, wagging his tail and smiling. He stood up on his hind legs. You could tell that all he wanted to do was get face to face with the manager and thank him for the good time he was having in the produce department. But somehow he ended up knocking the manager over. The manager must have been having a bad day, because lying there on the floor, right in front of everybody, he started to cry. The dog leaned over him, real concerned, and licked his face. "Please, please," said the manager, "somebody call the pound." "Wait a minute," I hollered. "That's my dog. Don't call the pound." All the Winn-Dixie employees turned around and looked at me, and I knew I had done something big, and maybe stupid too, but I couldn't help it. I couldn't let that dog go to the pound. "Here, boy," I said. The dog stopped licking the manager's face and put its ears up in the air and looked at me like he was trying to remember where he knew me from. "Here, boy," I said again. And then I figured that the dog was probably just like everybody else in the world and he would want to get called by a name, only I didn't know what his name was, so I just said the first thing that came into my head. I said, "Here, Winn-Dixie." And that dog came trotting over to me just like he had been doing it his whole life. The manager sat up and gave me a hard stare, like maybe I was making fun of him. "It's his name," I said, "honest." The manager said, "Don't you know not to bring a dog into a grocery store?" "Yes, sir," I told him. "He got in by mistake. I'm sorry, it won't happen again." "Come on, Winn-Dixie," I said to the dog. I started walking, and he followed along behind me as I went out of the produce department and down the cereal aisle and past all the cashiers and out the door. Once we were safe outside, I checked him all over real careful, and he didn't look that good. He was big, but skinny. You could see his ribs, and there were bald patches all over him, places where he didn't have any fur at all. Mostly, he looked like a big piece of old brown carpet that had been left out in the rain. "You're a mess," I told him. "I bet you don't belong to anybody." He smiled at me. He did that thing again, where he pulled back his lips and showed me his teeth. He smiled so big that it made him sneeze. It was like he was saying, "I know I'm a mess. Isn't it funny?" It's hard not to immediately fall in love with a dog who has a good sense of humor. "Come on," I told him. "Let's see what the preacher has to say about you." And the two of us, me and Winn-Dixie, started walking home. Okay, so that is the end of chapter 1. The questions that I would like for you to answer will be posted on my Power School page. However, and it'll lead you to Google to answer the questions. This is a preview of the questions. Number 1, Opal goes for groceries and comes out with a dog. Why do you think Opal made that decision? Do you think it was a good or a bad idea? And why do you think so? That's a lot. Number 2, give a summary of the first chapter. Remember I told you you were going to have to summarize? Yeah. So you're going to need to give a summary of the first chapter. You don't remember what a summary is? It's you tell what happened and you put the important events in order when you summarize. And number 3, I told you would be predicting. I hope you were questioning all along too, but predicting. What do you predict will happen next? So that means in chapter 2, immediately after she takes the dog to see the preacher, what do you think is going to happen? Okay, so that is it, and I hope you're looking forward to chapter 2 of Because of Winn-Dixie. Goodbye.